niece was 11 years old. When she was forced to marry her cousin, he was over 40. Her marriage was valid under the Islamic Sharia because the Prophet Muhammad married his second wife when she was 6. He was over 50. My niece was terribly abused by her husband, and she wasn't allowed under the Islamic Sharia to ask for divorce. I always remember when she escapes from her husband's house to her father's house, begging her father not to send her back. Dad, I will be your man. Just let me here, just let me live here. He would say it's a shame for a woman to leave her husband's house without his permission. You have to go back. My niece committed suicide at the age of 27 by setting herself on fire, leaving 4 children behind her. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how Muslim women enjoy their freedom and human rights under the Islamic Sharia. When I was working in a small village as a medical doctor, a woman in her late 30s came to my office complaining of some symptoms. An examination revealed she was 3 months pregnant. As soon as I told her the news, she collapsed on the chair and began to scream, to smack her face. I beg you, doctor, I beg you, rescue me from the mess I am in. I don't want my son to dirty his hands with my filthy blood. I told her, what's the matter, Fatima? She said, I am a widow. My husband died 5 years ago. He left me with 4 children. My husband's brother rapes me every day in exchange for feeding my children. If he knew I was pregnant, he would provoke my son to kill me. My son is very young. I don't want him to dirty his hand with my filthy blood. I deserve to die. I asked, how old is your son? She said 15. I sent her to a specialist. She came back 2 weeks later. She looked terrible, pale and very sick. I said, what's wrong, Fatima? She said, I came back to thank you, doctor. I got rid of the fetus, but I almost died. I asked, what was wrong? She said, the doctor performed the operation to remove the fetus without sedating me. I said, you mean without anesthesia? She said, yes, because I didn't have enough money to pay for the drugs, so the doctor had to do it without them. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how Muslim women enjoy their freedom and human rights under the Islamic Sharia. My husband left to America a year before I did. When I submitted a request to get passports for my children, the officer in charge refused to give me one on the ground that under the Islamic Sharia, I wasn't mentally fit to be the legal guardian for my children. And he asked me to bring a male from my husband's family who will give me a permission to get passports. No one of my husband's family lives in our town except one of his cousins. He was an alcoholic man, and because of his ill nature, my husband had never introduced him to me. To make a short story, a very long story short, I went to his house bribed him with 50 Syrian pounds, which equal to $1. He agreed to do it. When I left the passports building, I had the passport in my hand, but a sharp pain seized my heart. As a medical doctor, I am not mentally fit to be the legal guardian for my children, but a drunken man with no moral worth is considered to be. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how Muslim women enjoy their freedom and human rights under the Islamic Sharia. And that's how you are going to enjoy your freedom and human rights when Islam takes over. I say that, and I am sure of it. The underlying foundation of Islam is to take over. As David said, nobody believed Hitler that he was going to do what he promised to do. We are in big trouble if no one believed that Islam will control soon. They are already here. I was a part of my Muslim community in LA. Numerous times I heard them saying, we are here to spread Islam and to replace the American Constitution with the Islamic Sharia. A woman cannot raise a fair-minded child when herself is oppressed. A male child that grows watching his mother disrespected, abused, will have distorted mind, capable of cruelty. You cannot ignore this inhumane and miserable situation that Muslim women live in anymore. The whole world is a small village now. It takes a suicide bomber a few hours to jump from West Bank to your backyard. Please, don't take your American lives for granted. Appreciate it and fight to protect it. When I was living in the Middle East, I cried often because I suffered. And now I am free and I still cry a lot harder for all those women who I left behind. My dream of one day having each one of them to enjoy a taste of my freedom should be the dream of all of you. Thank you so much.
Her second book is due out in May. It's on Sharia law. I love the title. It's called Cruel and Usual Punishment. Noni Darwish.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Most Americans think that Islam is just a religion. Islam is much more than a religion. It's a one-party totalitarian state with a very elaborate legal system that can put you to death if you leave it. If Islam is a policeman, Sharia law is the gun. Sharia was created 100 years after Muhammad died to enforce total control over women and also to force control over the many nations that the Arabs conquered for Islam by the sword. Sharia must guarantee there is no defection from the Berlin Wall of the Muslim state. It's a political system. In the Islamic State, the woman is the most oppressed. I have lived under family Sharia law for 30 years of my life in Egypt. I witnessed honor killing of girls. Actually, our maid who came to our home was raped by the man of the house that she was working